All right, so I'm going to take what most people would just throw in their worm bins, which is food scraps, and they throw them in whole. Here's some cabbage, eggshells, kale, and so on and so forth. There's some beet greens. And instead of just throwing it in the worm farm, what I have found over the years that works much better is to put it in a blender and grind it up. So I just filled the blender with my food scraps and add water. And there's already some water in there, but I'm going to add a little bit more. And you have to add enough water to catch all the pieces of food in there and bring them down into the blades. And the whole purpose of this is to break up the surface area, increase the surface area, or break up the food to increase the surface area, so that the bacteria, when you put it in the worm in the worm bin, that the bacteria break down the food first, and then it's then consumed by the worms. And so the more surface area you have, the faster the bacteria can get down and get in and break down the food scraps. So I have found over the years that by increasing the surface area by blending it in one of these simple Ninja blenders that are about 40 bucks, you could probably get them for 10 bucks used, I'm just guessing, breaks it down very fast and produces worm castings at an accelerated rate. So there I put some worm castings in the blender, and now I'm going to fix the blending top. Okay, one-handed. And then what I do when everything's ground up, and that was a little excessive, but what I do is I drain off the water, because you don't want your product too wet when it's going into the worm bin, or it's just going to drown out the worms. They don't like it sloppy wet in there. They like it, as you've heard in many respects about compost, etc., like a wrung out sponge. So slightly wet, but not just dripping wet. And so I take what I've just blended and put it into something like this colander and let the water drain out. And so then I just take this over to the worm bin, which is over here. Watch out, guys. I got chickens all by my feet here. And there's our tractor. Okay. Here's our worm bin, which I'm going to split anytime now. And lots of worms. And I'm just going to lift up this cardboard here and feed one section of the worm bin with the food scraps. And I'll cover that up in a minute once I'm done putting all the rest of the food scraps in there. So then you put the cardboard back over the top, and they're going to just run through this thing fast, because, like I said, now that the food scraps have been shredded up and I've increased the surface area, the bacteria are just going to run in there, break it all down into what the worms can eat, and the worms are going to be able to get to it faster and consume it. So this is going to break down in no time, so you get your worm compost faster, and the worms are healthier, and You don't have as much buildup of mold and things like that I have found. And that's it on worm compost and increasing the surface area.